Hi everyone, we're going to get some weather through a Python program from OpenWeatherMap.org. The first step, we need to install requests. That allows us to make requests as if we were a web browser over the internet. You would bring up a command prompt, install requests, pip install requests. Pip is the Python package manager. There we go. Mine's already installed. Have everything in there. If yours isn't, it'll buzz and whir for maybe 10 seconds, and then you'll have requests. The next piece we need is this file called Weather Utils. This is where you get your OpenWeatherMap API key. In the tutorial, there's instructions for getting this API key. You would copy and paste it into here. It's going to be a bunch of letters and numbers and that sort of thing. Obviously, I'm not going to show my key, on a video. So you'll need the API key, and this is the URL, Uniform Resource Locator, to access the weather. An API key means that they are tracking how much usage you have of their service. Some web APIs do that, some don't. This is free. The part that we're using is still free. All right. We are going to hard code our location. If you don't want Scottsbluff, Nebraska, US, you can put in any other state, any other country in here, whatever you wish. Now there's enough pieces that we're going to add into the request that we need these guys for our query string. Do we need to have it as units? Well, I'm not used to seeing metric, so I do imperial. Q is the query location. App ID is the API key from our weather.utils. And notice we've imported weather.utils. We're going to use a request.get because we're requesting information. This is our URL from our weather utils. Whoopsie. Closed the one I didn't want to close. There we go. There we go. So we're going to get from this URL, we're going to attach these query strings into it. And then we're going to just print the raw JSON data. Well, let's try that and see what happens. This is the information you get back when you make a request on OpenWeatherMap. What I typically do is I'm going to copy this. When I'm trying to figure out an API, I copy this. I create a file that says, owm.json. Then I'm going to paste it into here. I'm going to hold down the Alt and the Shift key and type F. That lines everything up very nicely. We'll look at how to go through here and pull information from it later on. This does look very complicated, but if you understand dictionaries and lists, we can walk through how to get your own pieces out of here. As I'm working on developing programs, I quite often keep versions as I go. So in your Weather 1, it's a good idea to save it as Weather 2. So you don't, if this one breaks, you don't have to go back to the old one. I mean, you have an old one to go back to. Now I'm converting this to OOP so that we don't have to pass around a bunch of parameters. A class is a cookie cutter. It's a container for everything. So everything from here on down to here is part of the class. We use self as an identifier to say that this belongs to the class. Each method has self in it, which means it belongs to the class. This code is very similar to what we've done earlier. Now, to start a program with a class, we have to create an object. So in Python, it's easy to create or construct an object or initialize. We type in the name of the class, and this is our weather object. So then we do weather.getWeather. Well, that isn't what happens first. When you create an object, it goes to the initialize method. So we get our location, we set up our same parameters that were done before, we get our response, but this time we're pulling this into a dictionary called weather.data. So the response is converted from JSON into a Python dictionary. Then we call the getWeather method. Okay, now here's where it gets kind of interesting. Let me open up my commented JSON file. Now this is a dictionary. If I want to get the description, for example, I would say weather.data.get. So weather data is like the main dictionary, although it doesn't say weather data. .get gets weather. If you remember dictionaries, .get is a key value. So it returns, if we do weather, it returns this list. Well, this list only has one element in it. It has a dictionary. So that's why we do weather with the brackets 0, .get, and in this case I want the description. So for example down here, weather data is the whole file. I'm getting main because that's part of the dictionary. These next ones are a dictionary, so I get temp. I could get feels like. I could get min, max, pressure, humidity. So that's how you can, this one, I just do weather.data.get visibility. However, if I want to get wind, I have to do .get wind, .get speed, or clouds, 75% clouds. So if we look at this, weather, this is one we just looked at, getting the description, I'm converting it into title case. So every letter is capitalized. So self.weatherdata is our dictionary, and we're looking at over here. So this is, let me open up the real one. So this whole thing is a dictionary. Inside that dictionary, there's a weather key. There it is. There's our weather key inside this dictionary. This next piece is a list. Have no idea why they did that as a list. And inside that list is another dictionary. So this gets us the first element in the list, which is a dictionary, get description. You can follow the same logic and look at it here. We always start with the dictionary, then we get the next piece, and then we get the last piece. Now, as we're working with this, self-description, self-temperature, self-feels like are variables that are available throughout the class in all methods. So I can print out everything here. I don't have to pass parameters and arguments. All right, well, let's see if this looks a little nicer. It should display the weather in a format that makes sense to us. There it is, overcast clouds. That's the part that I capitalized. 38, it's 38.66 degrees. It feels like 31 degrees. Humidity is 80%, and it's totally cloudy. That takes care of part one. You have a decent little weather program. Take a while to look through this. Try to understand the dictionary. Key, value can be a dictionary. Key, value can be a list. Inside that list, there can be a dictionary. So you just keep moving over, grabbing things. I will be back with part 2, adding user input.